Hey everyone, Mitch coming up with the Creatic Ori studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I'm going to be taking you through some cards that definitely needed some reprints, got the reprints, and now their prices have, I was going to say skyrocketed, but the opposite, plummeted. There we go, we're on it today. So with that said, let's jump into cards that are less than $1, between $1 and $5, and then $5+ for all the new cards that you should be picking up right now. So, first up, we've got Wayward Swordtooth in a less than $1. Yeah, it's now 79 cents, a massive drop from where it was. Let's read the card first. 5/5 Dinosaur for just 3 mana, Ascend. So, if you get the City's Blessing, if you have 10 or more permanents in play, essentially. You may play a land on each of your turns. Can't attack or block unless you have the City's Blessing. It's incredibly easy and very expected in Commander to get the City's Blessing because, yeah, you're playing Commander. There you go. It's going to happen eventually. And basically, a low to the ground way to get additional lands out and also a threat once you get that City's Blessing. Yeah, that is huge. A giant price drop. Again, this card was like $3, $4, $5 in some cases. And now finally, less than $1. So even within my budget range. Moving on, we've got Welcoming Vampire, a card that makes a big impact in mono white especially, or Vampire Tribal as well. A 2/3 vampire with flying that costs 3 mana. Whenever one or more other creatures with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Triggers only once each turn. So there is a limiting factor to that, but still a good amount of card draw throughout the game with this. And of course, yeah, keep in mind this can happen on your opponent's turns as well, with like blink effects or flash, etc., etc. Just a 76 card right now after the reprint. Again, this was around $3 or so. Most of the pros prices on the right have been updated since these cards come up, but there's some of the older versions of cards, they slowly creep toward that price. So yeah, you'll notice some differences. Next up, we've got Quartzwood Crusher, a 6/6 dinosaur beast with trample that costs 5 mana in total. Whenever one or more creatures you control trample deal combat damage to a player, create an XX green dinosaur beast creature token trample or X the amount of damage those creatures dealt to that player. So yeah, I mean, even if you just start with this one, you can very easily build an army in absolutely no time, and yeah, just keep, expanding on that army, populating the army potentially, and yeah, if you've got a lot of other creatures that maybe have trample, or ways to give them trample, like with an overrun effect, essentially, yeah, you can make an absurdly large army in absolutely no time. Also very good in Dinosaur Tribal, obviously. This card is now just 69 cents. It's a $2 or $3 card typically, and yeah, this reprint dumped that price a lot. Speaking of dinosaurs, though, Regisaur Alpha. A 4/4 dinosaur for 5 mana. Other dinosaurs you control have haste. And when it enters the battlefield, you get 3/3 dinosaur token with trample. So 7 power across 2 bodies. That's already very nice. And of course, on top of that, if you're playing Dinosaur Tribal, congratulations! Or I should say Shapeshifter Tribal too, I guess. Congratulations! You have a very good card for your deck, being able to swing out right away with your dinosaurs. That is huge. 97 cents currently, just underneath that $1 mark. This card is, yeah, $3 or $4 or so before that. Definitely dropped the price quite a bit. Moving on, Ingress Marauders. 4/4 Human Pirate for 7 mana in total, which is quite hefty, but a massive effect here. If a sorcery control will deal damage to a permanent player, it deals double that damage to that permanent player instead. That is a huge effect, damage doubling to essentially everything that you do not like from all of your things. That is huge. This card is now around 47 cents. It was about a $2 card or so, so yeah, a huge price drop. Definitely a very budget-friendly card now, and if you've got a deck that cares about, well, damaging your opponents, damaging their things, doubling that up now can be very, very effective with this card. Moving on, Blade of a Blood Chief. Yeah, a great equipment for just 1 mana. Equip 1 as well. Whenever a creature dies, you get a counter on that creature. And if the equipped creature is a vampire, it gets 2 instead because blood. There you go. Anyways, a great card for, well, +1 counter builds. For vampire builds, obviously. For builds that care about, your commander being maybe massive. For builds that can take out a lot of creatures. There's a lot of kinds of builds that can utilize a very effective card like this. And again, keep in mind, it just says 8 creatures. So that counts your opponents as well, and yours, and also non-token creatures. It doesn't say that, so it can be token creatures too. A 97 or 90 cent card, don't know why I said the 7 there. 90-cent card right now was about a $4 card or so, $3 or $4 before that. So yeah, definitely a budget-friendly card. Now, next up, Biden of Thassa, legendary enchantment artifact, because that's the thing. For 4 mana, whenever creature control deals counter to a player, you may draw a card. Pay 1 blue, tab, creature control attack this turn if able. basically one of these kind of coastal piracy type cards where it's like, hey, hit your opponents and I will benefit you with a lot of cards. And you say, thank you very much. I will swing at my opponents. I will draw a bunch of cards. And there's no limiting factor to this where it's like, hey, only once each turn, or, you know, one or more creatures. No. You hit an opponent with a creature, you draw a card. On top of that, why don't you leave your opponents wide open by making them swing out with their creatures, and of course swing into really bad situations too. A 58-cent card. This card was about $2 or so before this reprinting, so a very good reprinting indeed. Next up, Rishkar's Expertise, a huge card. Source for 6 mana. Draw cards equal to greatest power and creature control. You may cast a spell mana value 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. That is absolutely huge. Because, yeah, I mean, if you're playing in a green deck, which obviously this is in a green deck, you probably have some big creatures in there, maybe even your commander. And if you're like, hey, you know what, I like to draw a good amount of cards, do so. Just draw an absurd amount of cards with this. Again, this counts the greatest power among creatures you control, which is better than like a Soul's Majesty, which is like target creature. Because then it's like, oh no, they took out the creature I was going to be targeting. Oh no. But this is like, no. Hey, even if they take out your biggest creature, you still get whatever other big creature you have in play and draw the cards. Also, just play something for free. A big spell for free. 78 cents right now is a $2 or $3 card, so a good drop right there. Moving on, Hinterland Harbor very quickly. A very good land. Enters the battlefield, tap this to destroy forest or island. Taps for either of those colors, essentially. So yeah, very good. A land that can enter the battlefield untapped in many circumstances. Currently 83 cents right now, was about a $3 card before that. Isolated Chapel, the exact same thing except for basically plain swamp. Is currently a 75-cent card, was a $3 or $4 card before this. So again, a good savings there. Karn's Bastion, here we go. 67 cents. I love that this one now is budget friendly. Tap for colors, pay 4, tap Proliferate, which is huge because Proliferate decks, yeah, I mean, you just have now another free way to essentially proliferate. I mean, it's not free, you have to pay for it, obviously, but hey, it is a land. It's not really taking up a spot in your deck, and being able to just utilize this again in maybe a toxic or, you know, infect deck, a poison deck, essentially. Utilizing it in a counters build, utilizing it in planeswalkers, being able to utilize this, just proliferate on a land is absolutely huge. 67 cents right now was about a $2 card or so. Then there's Blood Money, just barely within our requirement, again, for this first section of $1 or less. Blood Money is a sorcery for 7. Destroy all creatures for each non-token creature destroyed this way. You create a tap treasure token. So basically, hey, just demolish the board, make an absurd amount of treasures, and yeah, make sure you love that amount of money that you're getting for this and not the amount of money they're paying for this, because again, this card was about a $3 or $4 card before this. This reprinting really tanked that price. All right, moving on, let's talk about some cards that are above $1, but less than $5. And first up, we've got Blood Artist. So close to being within my budget. $1.08 right now. It's about a $2+ card. It has seen some reprints recently, but finally getting down close, so close to being budget friendly for me. A creature vampire for 1 and a black. Whenever another creature dies, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. Yeah, this kind of defines aristocrat style decks. It's like, you know what? Just going to drain opponents. I'm going to get a bunch of creatures into play, a bunch of creature fodder, sacrifice them, drain opponents, take players out. And again, this is very specified targeting. So it's like, yeah, you. I don't like you. Creatures are getting taken out. I'm going to drain you. Counts every creature, not just your own. Keep that in mind. Moving on. Blood Gas. Speaking of creature fodder, Vampire Spirit for black, can't block. Haste long as opponent has 10 or less life. Nice. Whenever a land is battlefield under control, you may return Bloodghast from your graveyard to the battlefield. Basically, a piece of creature fodder that you can keep getting back again and again and again for essentially free. Now, it's not really free, yes, but if you're just playing a land on your turn, you get that trigger, or, you know, like an Evolving Wild, you crack it. There you go. Get it back into play again and again and again. Sacrifice the Aristocrat style deck. Obviously good in Vampire decks too. Spirit decks too, I guess. It is now a $2.45 card. Much more inexpensive. Much cheaper than it has been previously. Around $10 or so. Been printed in a long time. Next up, Marauding Raptor. A Dinosaur for 2 mana. Creature spells you cast cost 1 to cast. Whenever the creature is battlefield under control, Marauding Raptor deals damage to it. The Dinosaur dealt damage this way, +2/+0 until end of turn. It's $1.11 right now. Again, just outside of my budget. Was about a $3 card or so. Before that, yeah, it's a pretty cool card. One that definitely helps out creature decks as long as they can survive that pinging effect. Can also really help with your enrage triggers if you have any of those. Like, hey, my creature's dealt damage. Oh, darn. And also can definitely be pretty heavy hitting as well. So yeah, make sure you're keeping that in mind. Yeah, again, $1 down from $3. Next up, we've got Metallic Mimic, one that can basically play in any kind of a tribal deck out there. 2 mana for a shapeshifter. That's a 2/1. Enters battlefield, choose a creature type. It is the chosen type. It is other types. And also on top of that, every single other creature enters battlefield a counter on it that is that same type. So basically, again, any kind of a tribal deck out there can utilize this. It is now a $3.58 card. Yeah, this price has definitely fluctuated over the years. around like $9 or $10 before this reprinting. Hasn't really seen many reprints at all, like a secret lair drop, and that apparently is it. So yeah, nice to see that this one is reprinted. And again, tribal decks out there, rejoice. Another thing to throw in them. Next up, we've got Time Stream Navigator. Definitely not a tribal card. I mean, not in every single tribal deck. It's for wizards or pirates or humans maybe. But there you go. A 1/1 for 1 and a blue. Ascend. So again, City's Blessing, very easy to get. Pay 2 blue, tap, put on the bottom of owner's library. Take an extra of this one. Only if you got the City's Blessing. This actually can combo with a couple of things to essentially get you infinite extra turns, which is lovely if your play group's okay with that. And if not, yeah, it's still just a good way to get an extra turn. And again, a card that could fit in those human, pirate, or wizard kind of decks. Currently around a $3.66 card, down from around $9 or so. So definitely saved a good amount of money there. Moving on, Runic Armasaur. I almost said Rurik Armasaur. Runic Armasaur. We got there. Creature Dinosaur for 1 green, 2/5. Whenever opponent activates ability, creature or a land that isn't a mana ability, you may draw a card. This can happen a lot throughout the game because, hey, yeah, here's the thing. Many commanders out there especially have abilities that activate. So there you go. You can definitely take advantage of those and draw an absurd amount of cards throughout the game. And of course, again, this counts lands as well. So that can definitely help you out. Yeah, Lost Caverns of Ixalan Commander card is now $1.83 compared to the previous cards, just from Core Set 2019, around $5 or so. So the first actual reprint of these from as far as I know, essentially. And yeah, a very good drop right there. Moving on. Thassa, God of the Sea, an indestructible god that is a 5/5 for 3 mana in total. Devotion blue is less than 5, not a creature. That's okay. Upkeep, scry 1, pay 1 a blue, make a creature unblockable, essentially. So, yeah, being able to get repeated scry throughout the game, that is good card selection, not necessarily card advantage, but you can get rid of dead cards off the top of your library, which is nice. There are some things that work with scry too that are very nice as well. On top of that, making creatures unblockable, that's quite nice too. So yeah, it can be a pretty heavy hitter. Yeah, in a God's Tribal deck, or one that really cares about the top of the library, or one that cares about making creatures unblockable. There's a lot of avenues to victory with this. $3.74 right now, down from around $9 or so. And again, outside that secret lair drop, which really doesn't count as a reprint, has never seen a reprint up until now. Moving on. Land of the Dusk Rose, one that has started to see more and more reprints recently. Land of the Dusk Rose is a 1/1 Vampire Knight with lifelink that costs 4 mana in total. Whenever a creature dies, you get a counter on it. Whenever Elenda dies, you get X 1/1 white vampire creature with lifelink for X Elenda's power. Yeah, I mean, if you either have this a commander of a deck or in the 99, it's going to get absolutely massive, and then you're probably going to sacrifice it and pop it, and all of a sudden you get an absurdly large vampire army. And if it is your commander, then get your commander back out, and then, yeah, just sacrifice those creatures and get it back on. Aristocrat style, Vampire Tribal style can really utilize a card like this. $3.46 right now, down from around $10. Again, seen a couple of reprints recently, finally down quite a bit. I guess the most recent one is Double Master 2022, so last year. So there you go. Moving on. Harold. I always think of Harold the Sacred Stream, just like his name is Harold. There you go. A 2/3 for 4 mana Merfolk Wizard. Creature control with counters on them can't be blocked. ++1 counters. I always shorthand that to counters, but in this case, very specific. +1/+1 counters. So basically, hey, if you're playing a +1 counter build and you've got creatures, yeah, you probably want this because it makes them unblockable, which is massive and huge. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say Merfolk Tribal as long as you have at least some counter synergies in there as well. But yeah, if you've got a +1 counter build, and that's one of those popular builds out there, definitely a really good card to consider. Right around $2 right now, was around $5 or $6 before this reprinting, and this is the first reprinting for this card, so happy to see that. Next up, finally, Wizards. My goodness, what took you so long, number 1. Number 2, you kind of messed up. So we have a 1/4 human pirate, Pitiless Plunder for 4 mana, uncommon. Whenever another creature control dies, you get a treasure token. I think this was kind of printed before Wizards really knew exactly how powerful treasures would be, and this, again, has basically no limitations. So another creature control dies. That counts any kind of creature, including tokens as well. Triggers more than once each turn. It's an absolutely absurdly powerful card, and definitely worthy of something above uncommon. Speaking of it being an uncommon, kind of like I mentioned earlier, yeah, it's nice that it's uncommon, but Wizard, you print it in a precon, so that doesn't really change the the amount that's out there, essentially, right? Doesn't really. I mean, it lowers the price, right? Obviously, but it's like if you put it in like a set, then maybe it would affect it a lot more because it's an uncommon. Still, it's a reprint. Thank you for reprinting it. $4.64 right now, was around like $9 or $10 before this reprinting. Pretty absurd. Wizards, please reprint it again in like a master set of something at uncommon, please, just to really tank that price. Moving on. Twilight Prophet. We've got a 2/4 Flying Vampire Cleric for 4 mana in total with Ascend. You got 10 or more permanents. You get the City's Blessing. Cool. Beginning of your upkeep, you have the City's Blessing. Reveal the top card of your library from your hand. Each opponent loses X life. You gain X life for X that card's mana value. So card advantage for you in draining your opponents as well. That is huge. $2 right now for this card. Good in Vampire Tribal. Good in Cleric Tribal. Good just if you have a good amount of high mana value cards and you want to get them for free off the top of your library and drain your opponents at the same time. Around a $5 or $6 card. So yeah, a very good card to pick up. Next up, Port Razor Orc Pirate for 5 mana in total. 4/4. It deals counter to a player. Untap each creature control. Combat phase. Combat phase. Can't attack. Can't attack a player who's already attacked this turn. So this one can actually give you 3 extra combats in a turn if it gets through into your opponents, which is lovely. And yeah, very good in, I guess, Orc Tribal could be a thing, but more so Pirate Tribal. Yeah, so there you go. Very good for combat, extra combat kind of decks as well, obviously. $2.30 currently. The first reprinting of this card ever, I believe. Down from around $5 or so. And I guess I should say ever. There's Magic Online promos right there. Talking about in paper. There you go. Okay. So around $5 or $6 before this. Moving on. Temple Altasaurus. Another dinosaur. Yes, Dinosaur Tribal. Getting a lot of reprints. 3/4 dinosaur for 5 mana. And total, if a source would deal damage to another dinosaur you control, prevent all but that one of that damage. That's a lot. That's basically like, hey, you're not taking out any of my dinosaurs, essentially, ever. Unless you have, like, a massive token army and you just have, like, 100 tokens in play. Good luck blocking my team. Currently, $1.51. A massive drop, again, for this first reprint for this card. Dinosaur Tribal definitely needed this one. It was around, like, $6, $7 at some points, too. So, yeah, definitely a really good reprint. Moving on. Comes to Power. Xenagos, God of Rebels, absolutely loves power and loves giving it as well. A 6/5 Indestructible God for 5 mana. As long as your devotion red and green is less than 7, Xenagos isn't a creature. Beginning of combat in your turn, another creature gets +X and haste for X that creature's power. Basically, hey, as a commander, you're like, all big creatures. Get bigger, swing right away. Congratulations. And also just in a big power deck. Yeah, there you go. God Tribal, that works too. About $4 right now, down from around $9 or $10 before this. Yeah, the first actual real reprinting, I believe, of this one as well. Next up, Apex Altasaurus again. Dinosaur's getting a lot of reprints. Who figures when they make a Dinosaur Tribal deck? There you go. 10/10 Dinosaur for 9 mana in total. Enters the battlefield, fights a creature, enrage, fights a creature. So basically, as much fighting as you can stand, essentially. Apex Altasaurus, if you make it indestructible, basically wipe out all of your opponent's creatures, because you can be like, fight, oh, I'm enraged, fight, enraged, fight, enraged. Takes out basically everything, which is lovely. With this reprinting, it's around $4 or so. Cut that price in half from around $9 previously. Next up, got Zakama Primal Calamity. I can't believe this one's only $1.02 right now. My goodness. It used to be so expensive. Got a couple reprintings lately. A 9/9 Elder Dinosaur for a 9 mana in total. Vigilance 3 Trample. Enters the battlefield if you cast it on top of land you control. Gross. On top of that, 3 abilities. 1 is 3 damage to a creature. 1 is through an artifact or enchantment. And 1 is gaining 3 life. A lot going on here. Great as a commander, obviously. Some broken things that you can do this one. Some infinite things that you can do this one. Obviously, those untapping of lands. And obviously, really good in Dinosaur Tribal as well. Or just big spell tribal, too. Being able to be like, okay, yeah, it's in my hand. Cool, I cast it. Basically, just got a free dinosaur. Or maybe even more if I had more than, 9 mana when I cast it. $1 right now, down from around $4 or so. Again, see more recent reprints, but this one really takes its price further. Next up, Vanquishers Banner artifact for 5 mana. And just Vanquishers a creature type. Yeah, this is a tribal staple for a reason. Creatures of the chosen type with +1/+1. Whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, draw a card. Absurd card advantage for any tribal deck out there, essentially. Yeah, quite good. And also an Anthem, too, which is nice. It's around $3.59 right now, if I could talk. And we used to be around about $5 or so, so cut that price in half. Moving on, Harden Scales, an absurdly good card, and creeping down into near budget range for me. Enchant for 1 mana in total, a single green mana. If one or more counters put on a creature control, that many +1. I do short-handed counters, but just +1 counters. $1.26 right now, basically doubling up every, I should say, individual effect, like singular effect of counter giving. And then also, yeah, just an additional, like, oh, I put 5 counters on my creature with an effect. Cool, I get a 6th for free. And it just costs a single mana to play. You get this down early in a +1 counter build. That is absolutely huge. Down from around $2 or $3, down to just $1 now. Yeah, it's got some recent reprintings, and that has really tanked its price. Yeah, if you're in a counter build, you want to use this. Next up, Sentence Pass, an enchantment. It says at the beginning of your upkeep, roll the top card of life. It's a creature card that shows a creature type with a creature control. You may cast it while paying its mana cost. If you don't cast it on the bottom of your library, this cut its price less than half, actually. $3.30 right now. Was about an $8 card or so before this. First reprinting ever, except for a secret lair drop, actually. And yeah, if you're in a tribal build or if you're in a changeling build, yeah, this is a very, very, very good card. Being able to cast creatures off the top of your library for free. What's not to love about that? Next up, Rhythm of the Wild. Oh my goodness. Yet another uncommon that was like, Wizards! Reprint this in a set. Reprint it in a set. I mean, I'm happy that you reprinted it because, again, it dropped its price from around $5 or $6 down to around $3. But again, the impact of reprinting it in a set is going to be much more effective because this is uncommon. Again, it being uncommon does not matter in a precon. Anyways, Jim, for 3 mana in total, creature spells you control can't be countered. That's huge. Top of that, non-token creatures you control have Riot, so they either get a +1 counter or haste, depending on what you want. So yeah, this is absolutely huge. It's a very, very good card, protecting your spells and also letting you usually swing with them right away, or if you've got some counter synergies, or if you just don't need to swing right away, cool, do that. But yeah, again, Wizards, please reprint this and Pitiless Plunderer in an actual set. Thank you. Next up, Rapid Hybridization, a really, really good card. Instant for a single blue mana destroy creature, they get a 3/3. Can't be regenerated, I guess I should say too. So $1.27 right now. This is about a $3 or $4 card before this. Very fantastic. Low to the ground removal in blue. Yeah, blue doesn't have too many ways to just straight up deal with creatures other than just bouncing them. This is a great way to do just that. Next up, Return of the Wild Speaker. Yet another card that has been budgeted in the past and kind of just went way above that and then down. Reprints. $1.08 right now, just outside of my budget. Instant for 4 mana. Choose one. Draw cards equal the greatest power among non-human creature you control, or non-human creature get +3/+3. Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, make sure that you're not just playing human tribal, but other than that, yeah, you're probably going to want to utilize a card like this if you got any kind of big creatures, drawing an absurd amount of cards, or pumping them, again, at instant speed, just out of nowhere. Fantastic. Was about a $2 card, now down to just 1. Next up, Damn. Sorcery for black, destroy target creature, destroy this way, can't be regenerated. Overload it for 2 white. A very, very good card. A flexible board wipe, essentially one that can either just be, hey, take out a singular creature, or, yeah, basically Wrath of God. So there you go. $1.28 right now. If this was just a little bit more budget friendly, yeah, this would see a lot of play in my decks. And yeah, I believe this is the actual first reprinting of this card. It was about a $3 or $4 card before this. Moving on, we've got Pact of the Serpent, yet another tribal card. Sorcery for 3 mana. Until choose a creature type, target player draws X cards, loses X life for X the number of creatures they control of the chosen type. So actually, it can be a tribal card for you where you're like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll draw like 10 cards, lose 10 life, whatever, it's fine. I'm fine. 1 life for 1 card, no big deal. Unless it's like late in the game and your opponents are low and they're like, oh, I'm playing my tribal deck. Oh, I've got like 15 dinosaurs I'm playing. You're like, okay, you're at 12? Cool. You lose. Bye-bye. So yeah, a very good card. First reprinting of it, $1.35 right now, down from around $4 before that. Next up, Windfall. Yeah, this card is absurdly good. Source for 2 and a blue. Each player discards their hand, draws cards equal to greatest number of cards a player discard this way. Great, of course, in wheel decks and cards in decks that can really deal with, you know, or take advantage of drawing cards. Maybe draw some extra cards with it, you know, with something like Eight Fairies Age's Insight. Ways to take advantage of, well, discarding cards as well. A lot of different kinds of decks can utilize a crazy good card like this. $1.56 right now, down from around $4. This card sees an absurd amount of play for a reason. Next up, we've got Shandras Ignition. Source for 5 mana in total. Target creature control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. I remember this card was so budget friendly, and then all of a sudden started seeing so much play. Yeah, it's a very, very, very good card. This one is basically, hey, it can be, my 1 creature survives, all your creatures get taken out, and you get hit in the face. Or, I mean, depending on how big your creatures are, you could just have it be a more one-sided board wipe where your creatures survive, essentially. Your opponents do not. Take advantage of rage triggers as well, so keep that in mind. Or, yeah, I mean, again, it's your creature dealing the damage, so if your creature has, like, lifelink, then cool, you just gain an absurd amount of life. If your creature has, like, infect, then you probably just win the game. $3.60 right now, down from $10. I actually didn't realize that was around 10. An absurd price drop. So again, if you've been waiting for that one, make sure you pick it up. Next up, Alchemist Per Fate. Really quick, a land. Taps for a colorless or pay Simic colors tap. You may cast spells this turn with the land flash. Basically a way to say, hey, you know what? I'll play spells whenever I want to. So yeah, a very good card if you can fit in the 99, and the 99, I guess, in the deck, and your land slots in the deck, because, well, hey, again, just having flash speed can be absolutely huge. Kind of like a Vulcan Ori on a land. $1.02 just outside of my budget, but might be within yours. Around $3 or so before that. And finally, Clifftop Retreat. Like we talked about earlier with those other lands, this is one that enters the battlefield tap unless you control certain kinds of lands, a mountain or plains in this case, taps for those colors. A $1.14 card, very good land, has potential to enter untapped, and yeah, it was about $3 or so, so if you're waiting for this one, make sure you pick it up. But now let's jump into some cards that are 5 and up, and we're going to start things off with our Chaomancer's map. Artifact for 3 mana, ETB, go get 2 planes into your hand from your deck, and then, well, hey, you know when an opponent plays a land, they got more than you, let's cheat a land from our hand into play. A great way, especially for mono white decks, to ramp an absurd amount throughout the game. $5.20 right now, down quite a bit from, I believe it was around like $8 or $9 or so. Next up, Coat of Arms, an absurd card that you need to be careful when you play. Artifact for 5, each creature gets +1 for each other creature on the battlefield that shares at least one creature type with it. So yes, if you have, well, shapeshifters, that works. I mean, quite nice, because it counts all your opponent's creatures then too. And then also, yeah, if you get your own tribal deck, like goblins, cool. You got a bunch of goblins to play, you're playing Cranko, cool, just make a bunch of goblins, awesome. But also, it also impacts your opponent's creatures as well, again, so keep that in mind. So if you're playing against a tribal deck, you're probably in trouble. So yeah, keep that in mind. Anyways, $11.19 right now, down from around $20 or so, so quite a big drop. Next up, Creatic Ori, a very good card, potentially broken card. One that can go infinite in a couple different ways. Legendary Artifact for 7 mana. Spend mana as lower mana of any color, that's huge. Tap for 5, colorless, but that's basically any mana of any color, right? Because of the actual thing before that, right? Pay 5, tap, draw a card for each color among opponents you control. So also a card draw engine for you. Yeah, this card is absurdly good. It's about $21 right now. It was around $30 or so, so quite the drop. Next up, Black Market Connections. Yeah, this is kind of like the big card in one of the pre-cons, a chase card. Enchant for 3 mana until the beginning of your pre-combat main phase. Choose 1 or more. Get a treasure, lose 1 life. Draw a card, lose 2 life, or make a shapeshifter, a 3/2 changeling, lose 3 life. So typically you're going to be choosing those first 2, depending on the deck. If you could choose that shapeshifter, great, do so as well. $14.62, an absurdly good card. Yeah, kind of like a Phyrexian Arena, but better in some ways, worse in some ways too, but yeah, a very good card. $15 or so right now, down from around $20 or so. So yeah, quite the drop. Next up, Branching Evolution. Champ for 3 mana. We've got, if 1 or more counters will be put on a creature you control, twice that many +1 counters are put on that instead. So kind of like Harden Scales, but again, Harden Scales is just like giving you an extra one, so it doesn't double it. This doubles it. So again, if you've got a +1 counter build, which again is a very popular build, an absurdly good card. The first reprinting of this one ever. It was in Jumpstart. Its price is basically cut in half right now, around $7 currently. So yeah, if you've been waiting for this card to get reprinted, there you go. Moving on, Exquisite Blood. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that card's really good. Chant for 5 mana. Whenever opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Very simple, very effective. In Commander, obviously, you have 3 opponents. They lose any life, you're gaining a lot of life. That's absurd. Also, this combos with like a tuna sandwich. This combos with basically a lot of cards that are like, hey, whenever you gain life, they lose life. So it's like the exact opposite. And then you just have to make someone lose 1 life or you gain 1 life. And then all of a sudden you just win. So you have this combos. This is already a good card. Even without the combos, it's around $13 right now with that reprint, down from around $30+. So a massive price drop. Finally, a Chrom as well. Currently around $10, was around $15 to $20 or so. Instant for 4 mana, choose 1, but if you control your commander, you get both. You're probably gonna have your commander, you're playing commander. Creature control gain flying, vigilance, double strike until end of turn. Also, lifelink, indestructible, protect for all colors until end of turn is the other option, or again, both, most likely. A very good game-ending spell in many circumstances, especially for go-wide strategies. And with that, this show is coming to a close, so comment below. Let me know if I missed any cards. I went through a lot of cards on this episode. Let me know if I missed any cards that got some massive reprints and their prices dropped. So yeah, let me know about that. Make sure you are, well, picking up the cards that you need for your decks with these price drops as well. If you're interested in any of these cards, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.